Every single person in this video made the same mistake. They found something they weren't supposed to see, and instead of staying quiet, they decided to expose it. What happened next should have been unrelated. Accidents, illness, suicide. That's what the official reports say. But when you line up the timelines, when you look at the details closely, a pattern starts to emerge. And once you see that pattern, it's very hard to ignore. Welcome back to Darkened Portal, where we go deeper into the stories most people never question. Today, we're looking at 5 real individuals who either vanished or died under deeply suspicious circumstances, all after exposing something powerful. These aren't internet myths. These are documented cases, investigated, debated, and in many ways left unresolved. The real question isn't just what happened to them. It's why the same thing keeps happening to people who speak up. Karen Silkwood was an ordinary worker at a nuclear facility in Oklahoma in the 1970s. She wasn't a journalist. She wasn't an activist. But inside that plant, she started noticing things that didn't make sense. Safety protocols weren't being followed. Radioactive contamination was being mishandled. Workers were being exposed to dangerous levels of plutonium, including Karen herself. Instead of ignoring it, she started documenting everything. She gathered evidence, collected samples, and even began working with a union to expose what was happening inside the facility. Eventually, she arranged a meeting with a journalist from the New York Times. She planned to hand over everything she had. She never made it to that meeting. On November 13, 1974, Karen Silkwood's car veered off the road and crashed into a concrete culvert. She died instantly. When investigators arrived, something strange stood out. The documents she had been carrying, the ones meant for that meeting, were gone, completely missing. Some reports suggested her car showed signs of being hit from behind. Others dismissed it as a simple accident. The case was closed, but the evidence she spent weeks collecting vanished with her. And to this day, no one has been able to explain where it went. Now go back even further to 1826. Long before modern whistleblowers, there was William Morgan. He claimed to be a former member of the Freemasons, one of the most secretive organizations in the world at the time. And he made a decision that would cost him everything. Morgan announced he was going to publish a book exposing their rituals, their secrets, and their internal structure. Almost immediately, his life started falling apart. He was arrested on questionable charges. His business was targeted. Pressure started building from all sides. Then one night, he was taken from jail by a group of men and disappeared. No body was ever found. No confirmed explanation was ever given. Some believed he was killed and dumped into the Niagara River. Others claimed he was paid off and forced to leave the country. What makes this case even more disturbing is that several men were later convicted for their roles in his abduction, but none of them revealed what actually happened to him. Nearly 200 years later, William Morgan is still missing, and whatever he knew disappeared with him. In 2014, journalist Serena Shim was reporting near the Syrian border. What she uncovered was explosive. She claimed that ISIS fighters were being smuggled across the Turkish border, hidden inside trucks that were supposedly carrying aid. This wasn't a small allegation. If true, it meant that powerful systems were being used to move militants across international borders. Shortly after her reports aired, the Turkish government publicly accused her of being a spy. She responded on camera, visibly nervous, saying she was concerned for her safety. She even mentioned that Turkey had become one of the most dangerous places for journalists. 2 days later, she was dead. Her car was hit by a heavy vehicle near her hotel. The driver of that vehicle was never clearly identified. No major investigation followed. The case was closed quickly. Her family never accepted the official version of events. And the story she was trying to expose was never fully pursued. Alberto Nisman was not just a prosecutor. He was one of the most important legal figures in Argentina. For years, he investigated the 1994 AMIA bombing, the deadliest terrorist attack in the country's history. After more than a decade of work, Nisman made a shocking accusation. He claimed that senior members of the Argentine government had covered up Iran's involvement in the attack in exchange for economic deals. In January 2015, he formally filed charges against the sitting president and foreign minister. He was scheduled to present his findings publicly. For days later, he was found dead in his apartment. A gunshot wound, a gun nearby, the initial ruling suicide. But almost immediately, things didn't add up. There was no gunpowder residue on his hands. The timeline didn't make sense. His apartment showed signs that raised serious questions. And perhaps most importantly, he had prepared further evidence that was ready to be presented. Years later, Argentina's courts officially ruled his death a homicide. Someone had killed him. But despite international attention and years of investigation, no one has been held accountable. Now to the most recent case, and possibly the most unsettling because it's happening in real time. In 2024, two men connected to safety concerns at Boeing died within weeks of each other. John Barnett had worked at Boeing for over 3 decades. He raised serious concerns about defective parts being used in aircraft, parts that could potentially fail during flight. He didn't just report it internally. He took legal action. He gave statements. He went public. In March 2024, while in the middle of legal proceedings, he was found dead in his vehicle from a gunshot wound. The case was ruled a suicide. Then, just weeks later, another whistleblower, Joshua Dean, who had also raised concerns about manufacturing defects, suddenly became ill and died from a fast-moving infection. 2 individuals, same company, both involved in exposing safety issues, both dead within a short span of time. Authorities stated the deaths were unrelated, but the timing raised serious questions across the aviation industry and among investigators worldwide. Because at some point, coincidence starts to feel less like coincidence. 5 people, different countries, different decades, completely different situations. But one pattern that keeps repeating: they saw something, they spoke up, and not long after, they were gone. Maybe every single one of these cases has a logical explanation. Maybe every death was exactly what the reports say it was. Or maybe not everything is meant to be explained. Because if even one of these wasn't an accident, then the real question isn't what happened to them. It's how many others never made it into a story like this. And more importantly, who's paying attention when someone gets too close to the truth.